Welcome, folks, to our first NFL preview of the season. Of course, I am Jeff Barnes. I am your host with the most tonight. I'm going to be joined with several of our analysts tonight. One right there on the screen is Steve Rogers. Welcome, Steve, and congrats on the birth of your young baby girl.
Thank you, guys. How's it going? Well, it's been a busy
Is that what
week.
inspired the beard change there?
Yeah, the beard had to go. I had to give the baby face a look at my real face, make the real connection. So it'll grow back. You'll see it again probably in a year or two, but it's on its way.
Wonderful. Well, congrats again. Bill Carroll will be joining us at some point tonight, waiting on Christy Love. We're going to start talking tonight with the NFC North and NFC South. Today is a big day in the NFL. Everybody's following the Brandon Ayuk story. As soon as there's a landing point, people will want to know. If it happens on the show, we will report on it. But in the meantime, let's get started talking some NFC North football. We're going to start with the North. Of course, the NFC North, everybody knows, Packers, Lions, Vikings, Bears. The Packers made the playoffs last year along with the Lions, who were division champs. Your Vikings just missed out on them. Different look Bears this year. Let's start, since we got our Vikings analysts on here. Steve, let's talk some. So, Steve, you cover the Vikings for us. Give us a few minutes of basically what you feel is going on this offseason and the direction of this team.
We'll just start off with, I think we had one of our better drafts of the last few years, maintaining both of those first round picks and making incredibly impactful picks with both of those. One, it was a minor trade up, and you got the quarterback that should be the quarterback of our future. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And then we landed what might be the best defensive player in the draft. So in Miles Turner. And those two guys, JJ and McCarthy and Miles Turner, might just turn out to be some cornerstones going into the future for the purple here. So I have no problems. And Jay Jettas is here. Justin Jefferson is not going anywhere. He signed a huge contract, so he's here the next few years. The future looks bright here in Purple City.
So let's talk about the low-hanging fruit, the quarterback position. Of course, right now, Sam Darnold is your gap starter, but everybody's in love with what J.J. McCarthy's done so far. And then there's, of course, Nick Mullins hanging around in this mix. What is your feeling so far on that mix of quarterbacks, how you think that's going to shake out so far in training camp?
Obviously McCarthy isn't going anywhere, and neither is Sam Darnold. I'm pretty sure we're still going to see Sam Darnold at least the first couple of weeks, as much as it sounds like JJ McCarthy has been shining all throughout camp. So it could become a battle position sooner than later than people think. I don't think JJ McCarthy needs the entire Patrick Mahomes one season of redshirting behind an Alex Smith veteran, or even the multi-year Jordan Love approach in Green Bay behind Aaron Rodgers. And I also have been hearing and seeing a good enough things that I believe Sam Darnold will be 100% competent to at least fill the role that Kirk Cousins was. So I think as far as a bridge quarterback, and especially at $10 million, I would call that a value quarterback. So we've got nothing to complain about here, again, in the Twin Cities, in the quarterback room, and in Purple and Skull Nation.
So let's just say you do get Sam Darnold as your starter this year. They say we're not gonna rush J.J. McCarthy. What do you feel you need from Sam Darnold to be able to compete not only for just say the division, but most importantly, if you're in the mix for division, you're in the mix for the wild card. So if you want to really compete for a wild card, what do you feel you need from Sam Darnold? Because what we've seen from Sam Darnold so far is the same guy we saw at USC, a guy that turns the ball over, a guy that kind of makes the big mistake in key moments of the game where you really, really need a play. And it's affected him not only in New York, it affected him in Carolina. And in the limited duty he saw last year in San Francisco. So what do you feel you need from Sam Darnold to be able to compete not only for the division, but especially for the wild card?
Well, I mean, you hate to throw around the phrase game manager, but I think if you're able to somewhere around the Jimmy Garoppolo effectiveness and the Jimmy Garoppolo effect, I'm kind of is sort of where the ceiling I think you want to look for and what we're getting out of Sam Darnold, his ability to understand and execute the play calling and playbook from head coach Kevin O'Connell, who is always going to be wanting to throw the ball a lot, and it's a pass heavy offense and a pass heavy league. So, I mean, you're definitely going to need to see some value of number from Sam Darnold. I mean, I guess if you want to call it for the entire season, over 2,500 yards. Like you said, if you want to compete for postseason, I think he's got to have at least a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio turnover. He's got to keep that down. That was one of the main problems Minnesota had last year, not just interception, but even more so with fumbling. So it's just that's a team thing. Everyone's got to keep their hands on the ball, not just Sam Darnold. But I think if you can control turnovers, that's always one of the keys in winning a football game. If you can control yourself, not giving it up and costing yourself, you're always in a better position. So, and also it looks like we have found ourselves finally a true kicker in the rookie we got in from it was Alabama, Royal Reichard. So he's drilling kicks from 55 plus, and they're looking like they could make it from 65 easy. So he looks good. I'm feeling quite confident in what our offense is going to be able to offer this year with Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and then that there is potential with Ayuk on the move. Since there is that talk out there, let's talk about it. Brandon Ayuk being so unwilling to continue to stay in San Francisco, whether they're not willing to meet his dollar amount, or maybe he's just not happy with his time or play management or where his position lies within the franchise. Does he want out enough to not be worried so much about the dollars so that he can compete maybe even against the San Francisco 49ers, like coming and joining an offense like Minnesota and joining Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, who we do still need depth at the wide receiver position.
Indeed. Well, we talked about one youth movement. We're going to slide on over to the other. We're going to talk a little Chicago Bears with Christy. Christy has joined the show. But first, we're going to slide over to Chicago. Christy, welcome. We weren't here for the initial intro, but we got your intro now. Great to have you on, our Bears writer. So let's talk about this youth movement in Chicago. We had a young quarterback in Justin Fields. You guys said, we're going to rebuild. It's not going to be with you. We want Caleb Williams. You bring in a lot of veteran help for him, something you never did for Justin Fields. You get Roma Dunze to go along with him. There's a lot of moves that you made with such limited picks, a lot of moves in free agency, good mix of both. Tell me how you guys feel about camp so far.
Camp has been a roller coaster, in my opinion. We had some good days and we had some bad days. I was recently at training camp about, I think, 2 weeks ago, and that was a bad practice. One of our biggest issues, and that's always been our issue, is our offensive line. We cannot stay healthy. Nate Davis and them are injured. They're nursing injuries, and it's like the season hasn't even started yet. What could be wrong as of right now? So with our line struggling right now, I'm a bit worried because we have this generational talent quarterback. We have these great receivers. Our defense is great, but our line is we just can't get together. And with that being said, like I said earlier in one of my videos, since our line is so inconsistent, we may not see Caleb start or even play at all this Saturday against Buffalo. So I say that to say I'm a little bit worried right now, but this is what training camp is for, to get them kinks out. But for the Bears, will those kinks be out past the next 2 weeks, going into week 1, So that's my only concern. It's really our line and us being healthy. It's too early for this. It really is. It is. and it sucks. But here we are.
Yeah. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. You go from one young quarterback to another, and rookie quarterbacks are going to have their struggles every throw. I'm sorry. I can't help but be annoyed when I open that X app. I still call it Twitter, but everybody calls it X
Me
now.
too.
Yes.
But when I open the app and everybody is critiquing every throw he makes, listen. First of all, they barely got to the pads. Everything's a thud. There is no tackling to the ground right now. He's not getting really pressured right now. I mean, there's so many things about what's going on in camp that are being overanalyzed. You're going to see them in some preseason games. That'll be a little bit better for judgment, but I get annoyed. But tell me, overall, the feeling. You've had a chance to see him run practice. You've had to see him work, in the offense live because you were actually at practice. What is your feeling so far on the development of young Caleb Williams?
My thoughts, he's great. He knows what he's doing. He can release the football quickly. He can use his legs. He knows what he's doing. We all know the Chicago Bears are not good at developing the quarterback. So with that being said, I am a little worried with that. We do have Shane as our new OC. But with Caleb Williams and how smart he is and how quick of a thinker he is on the field, I feel like with that alone that he already come with, he'll be fine. He is a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. I think at practice he threw maybe 2 or 3 picks. I'm not going to lie. But again, it's training camp. And then also in training camp, we talked about no real rushing. It was told that Montez Sweat had to chill out because he wanted to pretty much slam Caleb to the ground. So I'm not really worried. Everything is just really up in the air. And with Caleb being like in my opinion, overhyped, like let's call it what it is. The number 1 draft pick, people are going to overanalyze every little thing that he do. It's just that's what comes with it. So even though it's annoying, we just got to deal with it. But overall, I feel like he's going to be okay. Again, with the line, when the season starts, he may take some hard hits like Justin did last year. I just hope he knows what he might have to go through starting week 1. So we'll see.
All right. Well, y'all hold that thought because we got to slide over and get those other 2 division teams in before our first break. So let's talk about the division champs from last year. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions. So we see Dan Campbell returns. He's got his quarterback on a nice, hefty new contract. His wide receiver 1 has got a hefty new contract. His running backs are back, those young studs that he had last year. Made some key changes on defense with some nice young additions. So far, this Lions team looks like it's prepped to repeat at the top of the division with a lot of young teams chasing at it behind them. We saw the Packers come on strong quickly last year. How do you guys feel about this Lions team? We'll start with you, Steve, because Christy just talked, so we'll give her a chance to catch her breath.
Sure. Dan Campbell has been doing a great job assembling a solid squad and roster there and a culture in Detroit. And the team is bought in and the players are bought in and they've done well drafting and moving in free agency. And they've assembled a very good roster that can compete with anybody in the NFC. And they had a great year last year and maybe even have been a year ahead of schedule, whatever you want to call that these days. But they are every bit of a threat as anyone should once you win a division. I mean, that means you're a squad now and you've got your target on your back. So I think that's until they're knocked off. That's how you have to look at it. They are the champs and everyone's coming for them.
Yeah.
What about you, Christy?
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I was rooting for for Detroit from afar. But, they are the division champs. They earned it. out of all of us in the NFC North, I feel like they're the only ones that I feel like, in my opinion, are going to be the top team to compete against. I'm not worried about Minnesota or Green Bay. I know the Bears have not beat them in some years. However, that's going to change this year. But Detroit, they played hard. I feel like this coming up season, they're going to make a strong push for that Super Bowl. They were so close, so close this past season. They can do it again. I love Dan Campbell. I love the risk he takes with those. I think it was those fourth down calls. I love that because it's different. You know what I'm saying? So he's not afraid to gamble, and with that going into this season, I expect to see a lot more of that. So we'll see. But they're really tough this year. They're really tough.
They're not fourth down tush pushes either. So
No. Well, I'll tell you what. I just spent a few days out there, just outside the Motor City. There was a lot of excitement about this season out there.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I'm actually intrigued by what I saw with them in the draft, the improvements they made to that secondary. That's going to be a very tough team, not only inside the division, but outside of it as well.
Yeah.
First place schedule, not exactly the easiest, but that's always before the season starts. We always look at a schedule before the season starts and go, that's a tough schedule. Then somehow by week 6 or 7, they go, oh, they have an easy schedule. The preseason schedule rankings, I don't go by. I'll wait till we get to that point where we can start to flesh out the teams before we can really judge it. But it's a first place schedule, so it's supposedly tough, the way they set it up. But we'll see how it goes for the Lions. Now, there is one more team, of course, big rival for both of you guys, of course, those Green Bay Packers. So the second place team in the division, the team that went into the playoffs and made almost as much noise as the division winner, the Green Bay Packers. Both of you guys, they're a huge rival of both of your teams. But overall, this team, once again, we talk about getting better. I don't know too many teams that didn't utilize this very good draft, in my opinion. I know a lot of people talked about it wasn't great at this, it wasn't great at that. There was a lot of value. We sat here for 3 days talking about how is this guy still on the board because there were a lot of people coming off. These teams got loaded up with some very good players. Here's another one. Tell me how you guys feel about this Green Bay Packer team. And this time, Christy, you do get to start it off.
Okay. Well, we all saw Jordan Love get that great, I'll call it great, it is what it is, contract extension. A lot of folks called it overpaid, but he was with Green Bay for I think 5-6 years playing behind Aaron Rodgers. So with what he did last year, like putting all that hate aside, because it is hate, they were actually a decent team. Jordan Love came out strong, came out swinging. They beat Dallas in the playoffs. It wasn't hard, but they beat Dallas in the playoffs. But I feel like going into this season, I feel like they might be in the same spot they was last year. Even with the additions. Jordan Love got that contract. He's going to play hard, but they did take some losses in the offseason. So we'll see how they play out, but I have them being where they was at last year.
How about you, Steve?
Yeah, they're a very young core. Jordan Love is still young himself. I question I don't ever question anyone getting their money. I love everyone getting their bag. I'm just questioning the timing of it because really, yes, he had a great second half of 1 year. Is that really enough to bank your entire franchise and your payroll to one guy now? So now you're tying up so much of your cap to one quarterback and limiting yourself for the next 4 years of what you can put around him. Is he really? I think you're putting yourself in a situation box to where now he has to perform at a level beyond what he actually has. And I kind of think with sort of the same scenario with the hype around Caleb Williams, that's the same box they're kind of getting put in. They're putting so much expectation on someone that if he doesn't throw for 4,000 yards, it's going to be a lost season or what. All these things, like he has to break all the rookie records. Just pump the brakes, everyone, and just let's let some football happen. Let it breathe. But I love a quarterback. I don't know if he should be the highest paid quarterback. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, not that he shouldn't be paid, but should he be making more money than Patrick Mahomes? I mean, really?
I have to piggyback off that because I agree. All that it's going to come with all that pressure this season, all that pressure, expectation, and that can cause him to play worse.
How did that work out for Deshaun Watson?
Right? Yeah, exactly. So, we'll see. But that does come with a lot of pressure. And with a lot of pressure, you're going to be throwing picks. You're not going to be throwing right. You're not going to see. You're just not going to play right. So we'll see. But I agree.
Wise man once said, you want to shop at the grocery store, you got to pay grocery prices. So when you got a guy that's going out there and you're trying to avoid hitting free agency, you want to get him re-upped before he gets to that point, you're going to pay the market rate. They paid the market rate.
That's the market rate, though.
That's the market rate now.
But
that's the market rate now.
1 year.
It feels a lot nicer over here with a $10 million Sam Darnold. I mean,
well, listen. Listen, I tell you right now, I covered the Bucks, and guess what? They've got a great deal on Baker Mayfield because that was below market rate is what you're seeing right now.
Absolutely,
$40 million compared to $58 million. It's a whole lot of money.
That is crazy, man.
Okay? So, and I'm pretty sure Baker Mayfield was thinking, man, I guess I could have got 50. But, so it's the market rate. Unfortunately, like I said,
I would say Baker's doing more than Jordan Love. Yeah.
You said what?
I'd say he's done more than Jordan Love. He's been to the playoffs twice. He was the first guy to get Cleveland Browns to a playoff game.
Hey.
He has. But that was also the risk they ran to wait until year 5 to get him on the field. So, they kept paying Aaron Rodgers and kicking the can down the road. You got yourself into a point, you got to pay a guy for 1 year. That's what comes with the dinner. So we're going to go to our first break, and we'll be back with more here on the NFC North and South preview show. We're going to talk about the NFC South when we come back. Then we'll get into some division winner predictions before the show is over. Right now, we're sitting here with Steve Rogers, of course, Christy Love in the house, and somewhere Bill Carroll we'll fish him out from somewhere. Anyway, we'll be right back after the break. Stay tuned.
In 2006, we founded Yeti Coolers with a simple mission: build a cooler we use every day if it existed. One that was built for the serious outdoor enthusiasts rather than for mass discount retailers. One that could take the abuse we knew we'd put it through, out in the field and on the water. One that simply wouldn't break. We decided early on that production innovation would come from necessity and first-hand experience, not from market research and data analysis. Today, Yeti products perform when it matters most. Whether that be an excursion into the remote Alaskan wilderness, chasing redfish on the Gold Coast, or just getting together with friends in the backyard, we make gear that helps you stay out longer, travel farther, and live harder. # built for the wild.
Streetwear is not dead. The next wave in black fashion comes out the Bronx, New York. Rich Kid Clothing, picking up where FUBU, Rockaware, and Carl Kanai left off. Rich Kid is for the next generation of Get Fly fashion heads.
So we're back with more of the NFC North and South preview. You just missed the North if you're just tuning in. Of course, I'm Jeff Barnes, your host, joined by Steve Rogers and, of course, Christy Love. Christy, who's off screen right now. So we'll bring Steve back in as well. So let's talk right now a little on the NFC South. Now, I'm going to make us wait for the Bucks. Why? Because I cover the Bucks, and I don't like talking about the Bucks first. So we're going to wait for the Bucks last. All right. So NFC South. Where do we begin? Right. You got the Saints, who just missed out on chasing down the Bucks for the division last year. Carolina is rebooting after a reboot, on top of a reboot. Atlanta. Boy, oh boy, Atlanta. Okay, so Where do we begin? You know what? Why don't we begin with Atlanta? How about that? Let's talk some Atlanta Falcons. All right. So we're going to start with the Dirty Birds. We're going to start with the Dirty Birds. And you know what? There's a face popping up in my queue here that I recognize. I can't help but rope him into my show here. So as soon as he's in front of his camera, I'll rope him in a second. But the Atlanta Falcons, this was the team that talked about draft day over and over again. And, well, speaking of that face, here it is. Greg Rector, what's going on, sir?
Jeff.
Ah,
And it's Steve without a beard, and it's Christy. It's a beautiful sight.
Hi.
How'd you sneak into my backstage? That's what I want to know. How'd you sneak into my
Well,
backstage?
you know what? I just had to come on in here because it's the Atlanta Falcons, right? The Falcons who have Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and the big running back from last year, Brian Robinson. They apparently got themselves a quarterback in Kirk Cousins.
we'll see.
And then they drafted
Yeah,
Michael
we'll see.
Penix. And Michael Penix could be 27 years old before he hits the NFL field if Kirk Cousins stays healthy, right? But they don't have Arthur Smith coaching them anymore either. This is a godsend. Let's hope. Raheem Morris also drafted a bunch of defensive players.
He needed it.
So the Atlanta Falcons should be better this year than they were the last 6 seasons when they did not make the playoffs.
And isn't it funny how a former defensive player, defensive coach is going to spread the wings of an offense?
Oh no,
That's interesting because the guy that was supposed to be there before was an offensive guru, and that's why he was hired. He got all these pieces. You get an X factor at the wide position that you don't even know how to use as an X factor. There was so many things wrong with the Atlanta Falcons the past couple of years that if they're not dramatically better this year with the additions and a little bit of the addition by subtraction, I think there's going to be something wrong there. There'll be a different set of heads rolling if things don't go right this time around. So
Zach Robinson is the new offensive coordinator, so that should hold some promise. That Kyle Pitts is actually put in motion and things like that, and that Drake London is actually passed the ball to. It should be a beautiful thing for Atlanta.
But you didn't even have to motion Kyle Pitts, right? You didn't think of Kyle Pitts, the player that he was. He's a guy who has outside receiver experience.
Yep.
He's a Y at the NFL level. You can line him in line. You can use him as a move tight end. You can line him up in different places, but you can motion people around him and create better matchups.
Yeah.
And they never did that. They never did that. And it was just a waste. And I'm hoping that they have the vision to utilize his skill set along with Drake London, along with all the other players they brought in the past 2 years. This year, they brought in a lot of defense. They needed it, like we talked about. But absolutely, listen, I think this team on paper could be very good. I think a lot of people were seeing that. A lot of people talking about, they're going to be a playoff team after they got Kirk Cousins, and then you throw in the Michael Penix pick, and people are loving the arm of Michael Penix. Well, if you didn't love his arm at Washington, because his arm was amazing at Washington, I don't know why you're falling in love with it now. It was
That's all those people
who play in the playoffs.
That's all those people who cheered for that school up north that did beat Washington in the finals, but they all didn't like Michael Penix. That's the only people out there who didn't like the guy. I mean, what was he? He was our QB3, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I know who's going to love Michael Penix. The teams that aren't going to play him this year, since he's going to be sitting on the bench behind Kirk Cousins. That's the people who are going to love Michael Penix this year. In fact, I know one of those teams is going to love him. Let's talk about that character. Remix or the reboot of the Carolina Panthers. Okay, So Frank Reich doesn't last a year. He was replacing the guy that's in Nebraska, he who will not be named right now. Okay. So we're going to go down this road with the Carolina Panthers. Dave Canales comes over from here in the Bay Area, not the San Francisco Bay Area, but the Tampa Bay Area. All right. So new head coach just revived Baker Mayfield's career, gets his first gig, and you get the Carolina Panthers with an owner that's as patient as I am young. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this team right here in the Carolina Panthers. Oh, if you're talking, Christy, you are muted. So gotcha. All right. So, Greg, you got to talk Falcons. Let's kick it over to Steve. Let's talk some Carolina Panthers. Steve, what's your feelings on this Panther team?
Well, yeah, the owner must be doing his best impression of DJ Kellen. And not another one. Anyway, so yeah, they are not really getting their wheels turning because every time they try to start getting their wheels turning, they decide to turn their wheels in another direction. I don't really know what they're doing, but they probably can't do any worse than they've already been doing the last couple of years, getting the top pick, except they might trade it away. So they probably will do themselves a favor, and maybe it sounds like things are going better this year for Bryce Young than they did last year. So there might still be hope, and it is only his second year. Jordan Love has gotten 5 years. So I think if there's any room for patience, let's all be patient and see what can come of Bryce Young. Just so happened CJ Stroud caught lightning in a bottle right out of the gate, and not saying that was a fluke at all. I believe in CJ Stroud being a really top quarterback in the league. That's just how, things happen.
Okay. Chris, do you got any thoughts on this Carolina team?
I agree with what Steve said. Bryce Young, he's very young, and if they're patient, be patient, rebuild this team. You have a great quarterback. You have a new head coach that can coach. So just be patient and build around Bryce Young. And if you can do that, I feel like in the next couple of years, maybe 2-3 years, maybe they might be a playoff team. Maybe they might sneak in if you give it some years and really build around. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see.
I guess the best thing they have going for them is that they're still in one of the weaker divisions.
Yeah. Yeah, I like for real.
A division that's also the division itself is going to have some turnover because the Bucks are only getting older. So outside of Baker Mayfield, but yeah.
It's probably one of the youngest divisions in the league when you think about it. You have a whole youth movement starting to happen in New Orleans, which is one of the oldest teams in the league the past couple of years. They're starting to get younger, letting some of those veterans move on. Atlanta has been a youth movement for the past couple of years. Carolina's been a youth movement for the past couple of years. Tampa Bay's been getting younger. They've been jettisoning some guys. So
it's anybody's division.
It's probably one of the youngest divisions in the league. So barring the AFC East right now, which is pretty young as well. So, yeah, I would say it's going to be an interesting thing to see how Dave Canales can get this locker room to buy in real quick, how well they can figure out what they have and get it to gel well enough to be competitive early. Because I think if they come out and they're competitive early, it'll build momentum and give them a chance to build towards the middle and late part of the season, making a run. If they're struggling early and they're off to a really slow start, young teams, how do they react? Not always easy to predict. Sometimes they just go through the motions until something kicks them in the butt. Sometimes find a way to rally around a veteran or two. So it's going to be one of those things where he's a young coach. We haven't seen him as a head coach before, so there's a lot of unknowns there, a lot of unknowns with this young roster. So that's going to be a watch and see experiment in Carolina, in my opinion. Before we move on, Greg, you want to add one more thing to that? Put a nice little bow on Carolina?
On the Carolina Panthers, well, they did Leggett, the wide receiver. Then they took the big risk and took the young man from Texas at running back, Brooks, who's coming off an ACL injury. But they also dealt away Burns. So where is their experience? Where is their experience on the defense, right? And the offensive line was still not addressed. So this team is going to be, in my opinion, the number one draft pick in 2025. They are going to have the first overall pick.
Well, as you saw, Dan Morgan is a pretty shrewd businessman when it comes to making trades. He was trying to squeeze the juice out of the Giants on that Brian Burns trade. So,
well, he had to because they had already given up the ghost to the Bears.
Yeah, right. So he was trying to squeeze the juice out of him on that one. That was he came back over. We got a deal. Wait, let's add this to it too. So yeah, he was really trying to get every bit of it out of there. All right. So let's go down to the Big Easy. Who that going to be?
That's going to beat them Saints.
You know, I must say, listen, that is one amazing town when it comes to football. My 1 year down at Grambling and going to Bayou Classic, when they weren't very good, it was still a very big football town. So, New Orleans. Who wants to start off New Orleans? I let the panel decide who wants to start off with New Orleans.
I see this silence from the NFC North crowd, so I'll jump in here for the NFC South. And who that going to beat them Saints? A lot of people are going to beat them Saints. Derek Carr is still their quarterback, even though they do have Spencer Rattler in camp, and he's looked real good and all this other jazz. But again, he still hasn't faced anything in the NFL as of yet. So again, when it comes to all this training camp videos and all this garbage you just see on X, I ignore all of them. That is all noise garbage. If you want to watch something that matters, watch who the New Orleans Saints play against as a team practice. Team practices matter more than these preseason games do now, folks. That's where these guys go out against actual live opponents and they're hitting each other. And that's even
except the quarterback. They still got the red jerseys on.
The quarterback has the red jersey, but the offensive line are getting tested. Defensive line gets tested. That's what matters. Yeah.
So they've gotten younger receiver finally. They're starting to make some moves in the backfield to help out their running back situation, which was pretty weak other than one player. Offensive line wise, they started getting a little bit younger there, trying to shore up that. They desperately needed to get young on a defensive line. So they're finally getting a little bit of a youth movement there in NOLA. But the question is it enough? Right? We saw the Bucks get a little bit better. What are they doing to top the Bucks? Last year they split. 2 different games when they played each other. Can they overtake the Bucks with this roster as it is?
Not as long as Dennis Allen is still the head coach. And I mean, we said this all last year. Why is he still the head coach?
Well, we know the answer to that. We know the answer why he's still the head coach.
Yeah.
Listen, he's tied to the hip of the GM. That's real. He's tied to the GM goes, Dennis Allen goes. Unless the GM knows my job is on the line and one of us has got to go, then yes, Dennis Allen is out.
Well, the GM
they're tied at the hip.
Yeah, the GM in New Orleans ought to realize that his job is on the line if he keeps Dennis out. That's it. Especially if they don't come out quickly.
And that's got to be the thing. I mean, you can't have a slow start this year. I think Tampa Bay is going to come out strong. You got enough guys coming back. So and I'm doing too much into the Tampa Bay thing because we're about to talk about the Bucks. But yeah, I think they have to come out strong. You have to either overtake the Bucks early or match their intensity early, match what they do early. I think that's the one thing. And then of course you got the Falcons. If they come out as strong as everybody believes they are on paper, that's a 3-horse race. So if I'm the New Orleans Saints, you got to be firing from the get-go. So Dennis Allen's defense has got to play a lot better than it did last year. And they have to find the explosive plays. I mean, watching that offense last year, oh my goodness, I've seen more interesting 1981 Giant games than I saw it with the New Orleans Saints offense last year. It was very mundane, very methodical, very. It didn't really gain any explosive plays until late in the season when they started to have a little more success. And you got Chris Olave and a few other guys that could help you there. So that's one of the things this year I think that they'll be better at. But will it be enough to overtake the Bucks? Let's talk about the Bucks, folks. We're going to talk about the Bucks, and then we'll come back to all of that. Let's talk about those Buccaneers. Yes, that's right. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right here in my backyard of Tampa Bay. And, of course, a friend of my show on Bucks Weekly, shameless plug, Buckify Burt, the Hall of Fame super fan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I must say this team impressed me this offseason. Shout out to Mr. Light, the GM, for going out there and finding ways to add explosiveness to this offense in Bucky Irving and several other players. But most importantly, he added to that offensive line. Graham Barton is a big pickup for those guys. And they're moving him around the offensive line right now to see where he best fits. Luke Goedeke moving out the right tackle. Probably the best move for them instead of going out there and trying to pay for somebody they can't afford another year or two anyway. So I think the youth movement on the line is probably going to do wonders for Baker Mayfield. It's going to do wonders for Rachaad White. I think he's going to get a lot more holes once they have a younger, more talented offensive line moving people around. That defensive line definitely got better. We saw the guys that drafted last year. They added some more on this year. And the secondary got better. They had some great safety help in this draft. So I think overall this team is going to be set up for a potential 4-peat division. So if they can hold off the Atlanta Falcons, if they can hold off the aforementioned New Orleans Saints, which I think they can, and not fall into any pit holes versus the Carolina Panthers, that's a big one as well. So that's the main thing I see with this Buccaneer team. And you hear it first from the guy who has the show Bucks Weekly, covering the Bucks. Yes, that's me. Anyway, so guys, your thoughts quickly on the Bucks before we go to one more break, and then we start trying to throw out some predictions for division winners. How do y'all feel about this Buccaneer team?
Well, real quick, if you don't mind, I've always been a fan and supporter of Baker Mayfield, and I think that he's kind of gotten a bad rap and has been able to resurrect himself, so to speak, in kind of not just the public eye, but the NFL eye, and the way he's been playing down in Tampa Bay. And I think he fully earned his contract. And I think Tampa Bay is the exact right fit and home for him. I think that they're still the cream of the South Division. If I were really to basic rank the teams in the division, I would have the Bucks 1, Atlanta 2, and like you said, New Orleans 3. And unfortunately, Carolina just conveniently has the right colors of blue and black because they're just going to get beat up on by the other 3 teams this year.
Gotcha. Chris, do you have any thoughts on this Buccaneer team?
My only thing is, can Baker Mayfield have a repeat of what he did last year, especially in the playoffs? We all saw what he did. I think he got paid like right after that. If he can keep that up, then I think they'll be good. But he has to perform like he did, especially in the playoffs. That was impressive.
Baker Mayfield earned his paycheck in the regular season. That playoff was just a bonus. He played well last season. He played well throughout the season. So, I mean, it wasn't just that playoff game. Baker Mayfield led the Buccaneers all last season.
I agree.
Now they got Graham Barton, who's masterful offensive lineman. They also added Chris Braswell to the defensive end of their roster as well. But boy, did they ever get a couple of steals. Tyke Smith, the safety out of Georgia, and then Jalen McMillan, who was the third wide receiver, according to many people, for those Washington Huskies last year. So this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, they hit in this draft, and they hit very well.
So do you think they'll take the division?
Oh, yeah, they're taking this division. This is the Bucs. This is the Bucs division. Atlanta and New Orleans will both be like 7-10, 8-9 rosters. And Carolina, I'm sorry, but they're really going to hurt.
Oh, yeah, they are. They are.
Yep.
So with y'all saying the Saints as bad as they are, you think they're going to be tied with Atlanta?
Yeah, they're going to duke it out for third place in that division.
It depends on how fast Atlanta comes around.
Yep.
Atlanta comes out and they're really pushing Tampa Bay for the division. It's going to take a lot for the Saints to keep up with both of them. There's the one like I talked about. Those two offenses have the ability to be explosive. The Saints are just getting that ability. So unless they come out and they find a way to start hitting right off the bat, they're going to be the team that's going to have to catch up to those teams at the top of their division.
The Atlanta Falcons are kind of the X factor of that division, because if Raheem Morris can come in and lock in that locker room that's already got a lot of talent all over, they could make a real run at Tampa Bay and give Tampa Bay problems. But I don't think New Orleans has enough to keep up with what Atlanta might have.
The Falcons improved their front seven on defense, but these are rookies. These are kids. They don't know what it takes to
Mr. Texans.
NFL. They could have been all superstars in college, like we've all seen before.
Yeah,
but this is the NFL.
Exactly.
So Raheem Morris has to get that defense playing together very quickly, because I don't care what Kirk Cousins does. I don't care what any of those other offensive players do. If you can't stop your opponents, you're losing.
Yes, I agree.
Well, it's funny you mentioned superstars. We have a superstar coming right away on the break. It's called Yeti. We'll be right back.
In 2006, we founded Yeti Coolers with a simple mission: build the cooler we use every day if it existed. One that was built for the serious outdoor enthusiasts rather than for mass discount retailers. One that could take the abuse we knew we'd put it through, out in the field and on the water. One that simply wouldn't break. We decided early on that production innovation would come from necessity and first-hand experience, not from market research and data analysis. Today, Yeti products perform when it matters most. Whether that be an excursion into the remote Alaskan wilderness, chasing redfish on the Gold Coast, or just getting together with friends in the backyard, we make gear that helps you stay out longer, travel farther, and live harder. Hashtag built for the wild.
Streetwear is not dead. The next wave in black fashion comes out the Bronx, New York. Rich Kid Clothing, picking up where FUBU, Rockaware, and Carl Kanai left off. Rich Kid is for the next generation of Get Fly fashion heads.
You know, I got to get me some of that Rich Kid clothing, man. I got all this athletic gear. I got to get some of that Rich Kid stuff. But anyway.
Hold on, before you continue, y'all just know Hard Knocks just dropped. So it's out when we get done. Y'all need to check it out. Bears Hard Knocks just dropped. Okay, that's it.
Okay.
There you go. Right from the words of our Chicago Bears reporter.
I'm so thirsty to see it.
Love. Right on it. Right on. That's what I'm talking about. That's why she covers the Bears for us.
All these new products suck for old Greg up here in Canada, because nobody distributes the stuff in Canada. I got to pay another $50 just to order something.
You in Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been there. Yeah. Always.
Okay. Dang.
Yeah, Greg likes the cold.
I love it. Yes.
And the free healthcare.
Well, that too. Free healthcare is not a bad thing.
No.
So, by the way, one more plug. If you notice, we got a Vikings writer, we got a Bears writer, we got a Bucks guy, and in your new director of NFL scouting for Team MBS Media, because we're growing. And with growth comes opportunity. We have some opportunities approach some of our writers. So they have moved on to other companies, and we have openings. Feel you want to be able to write? Yes. So you feel you want to be able to write about your favorite team? Feel you can contribute some great content? We are looking for NFL people and other areas, entertainment, things of that nature. Once again, contact us at Team MBS Media. We have openings. Come on aboard.
I might have somebody. Oh, sorry.
It shows. Come show us.
Somebody that he is a Baltimore Ravens fan, and he's a really, really like deep dive. So he might be joining soon.
Okay.
That's good.
That's good. All right. There you go. The more the merrier. Listen, we have people for all 32 teams. That is a great thing.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Because as Jeff is now the director of the Team MBS Media Draft Central, I'm now a draft analyst.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm going to be a busy boy.
As well as all your coverage of the Cowboys.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh, the Cowboys.
And the Raptors and the Edmonton Oilers when they do something or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whatever else.
Team Canada.
I'm actually going to be writing an article about Summer McKay, who won 3 gold medals and a silver medal for Canada at the Olympics. That girl does not have an ounce of social media presence, not one ounce. She's 17 years old, doesn't touch social media whatsoever.
That's actually good, though. That's good. No distractions. You don't need none. Get your medals.
Yes.
That's your focus. Books and medals.
So
wow.
We're at the point of the show. We got to start talking. You got to put on your Schwami hats. You got to make some predictions here. So what we want you to do is we're going to go around, and I want you to predict the South winner and the North winner for the NFC. So, Christy, ladies first. NFC North, we'll start there. Who do you believe is going to win the NFC North?
I'm not going to be biased. Honestly, I feel like Detroit will probably win it again. And I feel like the Bears will be right behind them. But Detroit, like I said earlier, they had a really good run. And I feel like they're only getting better. St. Brown played an amazing season last year. David Montgomery looked good. They all look good. So Detroit is definitely I feel like they can do it again. They can do it again. And then for the South, that can be low-key anybody's division. But if I had to choose, I would probably pick the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers. I think they can do it again. I think they can do it again.
Okay. Steve, what about you?
All right, yeah. I will start with the South, and I think that it is still the Bucs division to lose. I think Atlanta might make a push and a run, maybe, but I think in the end it is still the Bucs with the experience as the franchise. They've got multiple Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. They just have more of an established winning culture and just maybe a slightly better experienced roster than Atlanta. Being young and having a rookie coach and having to change schemes and whatnot, and that sometimes it takes an adjustment period of more than one season. So I'm going to stick with the Bucs. Consistency. They've won it the last 3 years. They're not going anywhere. And then in our division, this one's going to get ugly and sticky because honestly, with how good every team in this division is going to be, yes, the Bears, yes, the Vikings, no one is going to be battling for last place in this division. Mm-hmm. It's gonna. There might just be both wild card teams coming out of this division.
I agree.
The division winner in this one might only have 10 wins. I mean, this division is that tight. So, which does make it open to anybody. I do still think that it is Detroit's to lose. However, what I'm seeing and hearing, especially from the likes of Justin Jefferson, he is not out here to play to lose. And it does not look like our quarterbacks are going to have any problem getting the ball out to where we need it to be within our winners' hands. So I think our Vikings are not going away. They just missed last year. They were a division winner a year or two ago. So this division is stacked and loaded up and down. And the Bears just got themselves loaded. However, they're very young, and that just, again, might just take time. Bears might be next year's winner.
Okay, we're going to slide north to the border to you, Greg. Who do you have picking this division, eh?
Well, the Detroit Lions are going to win this division. They've got a backup tackle from the University of British Columbia who's 6'7", 350 pounds. This boy knows how to move. And they've also locked up their entire offensive line contractually through 2027. Like they're loaded. Jahmyr Gibbs is also very good in their backfield, along with David Montgomery. But this is Detroit's division. Christy, the Bears are going to beat the Packers twice.
Yes, they are.
They're going to beat the Skull twice, so they're 4-0 in the division. I've already told Steve to sit there and be quiet. Steve, you had your say. It's my turn now. The Bears are going to be fighting for second place with those awful go pack go clowns who I can't stomach.
Yeah.
I don't care what Jordan Love got for money, because as I wrote in earlier, this salary cap's going up by $100 million in the next 5 years. It's going up $100 million in the next 5 years. So whatever anybody says about these contracts for the quarterbacks, this is nickel and dime stuff, kids. This is nickel and dime stuff. They're going to go up to 75 and 80 million. Like, they are going to the roof. But that is always this marketplace, because every owner feels that if their quarterback can compete, we got to pay him.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Justin Jefferson, he could be worth some of that money, but he's not worth all that money. I'm sorry, Steve, but he is not worth all that money, because you know why? Sam Darnold is not that good of a quarterback. He is not that good of a quarterback. Did you ever watch him at USC? Did you see him with the Jets? Did you see him elsewhere? He's not that good. So you enjoy your $10 million this year. J.J. McCarthy's going to get thrown out in that field quicker than you think.
Yeah, and he will be ready for it, and he'll make this team go better than Sam Darnold.
Oh,
we got a rookie on a rookie contract for 4 years.
J.J. is 20 years old. 20 years old, and he never, ever faced anything like he's going to see in the NFL at college. You look at that schedule that school up north played. He didn't play anybody.
And they didn't beat anybody in the national playoffs either. Nope, they just won by default by accident because nobody showed up. Okay.
No, they beat Washington. They beat Washington. But you look at their schedule, you look at those teams, you look at the teams that they played against, Steve. They didn't play anybody all year except Ohio State. Wow. That's a big victory.
Get your
brains on. Skull will be in last place in this division.
J.J. McCarthy will be the rookie of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, I was eating my popcorn. I'm sorry, guys. So
me too. Greg is hilarious.
So, yeah.
It must be that thin Canada air or something, because that was a good time.
Hey, I live up in the thin air of Calgary.
Oh, we know you live in it, clearly, because you don't live in reality, because that's not what happened.
I'm sorry, but the Skull's going to be in last place, Steve.
Speak him up, and he shall appear right in time to give us his division winner predictions. Is, of course, Carol.
Bill, where you been?
Yeah.
The
voice of reason.
Those who are not familiar, tonight is, and I forgot myself that it is, tonight is what's called the National Night Out.
Hey.
And I had to represent PLCCA, the Proviso Laden Council of Community Action, at the event. and help people to connect to fulfilling self-sustaining employment.
Okay.
Yes. So our new senior NFL draft analyst Bill DeCarroll.
Yeah, that's just a cute way of calling me old, but thank you.
No, sir. No, sir. Listen, only my knees are old. I speak that right now. Okay. All right.
And I am.
Well, Gunny, you've earned the age. Okay.
That and many other things.
So, Bill, give us your predictions for division winners for the NFC North and NFC South.
Certainly. I will go north first. And the Green Bay Packers are in a situation that infuriates the other teams in the North, right? It seems like they can't help but find Hall of Fame quarterback after Hall of Fame quarterback after Hall of Fame quarterback. They had sort of a dark period for a while. No offense to Lynn Dickey and others from after Brian Bartlett's star, but they clearly found a groove. They have a young quarterback that they've paid all the money to, but yet they're not in a bad cap situation. It's something that you rarely find, a team that manages to pay all that money to a quarterback who is on the ascent, and still they have some wiggle room if they want to do a little bit more to bolster the team. Partially because they don't have a lot of other huge names on the roster, right? Their wide receiver core has an average age of about 24 and a half, I think, as memory serves. So almost everybody who catches balls at the tight end wide receiver position is on the rookie deals. They let some very talented running backs go and brought in cheaper options, but their offense is structured in such a way you don't need to have a top, in fact, very few teams have a top flight, top paid running back. They are built in such a way. Bakhtiari has moved on, and with him, his contract. So despite having paid all that money, they are in a good relatively good situation in terms of the cap. 2, they had a really down year defensively. I was predicting they were going to have a really good defense, and I was right that they have a good season. Their defense did not really show up like I thought it would, especially their pass rush. I think they will be better on defense this year, and if they've been a little bit, a modicum better on defense, to me that equals probably 12 wins. So to me, they're the top of the heap. I think the Lions will be right there fast on their heels, maybe just a game behind. The Lions are still a very good football team. They clearly are not going to sneak up on anybody this year. But I believe that the gap will be I think they're going to split the series, in fact. I think each team's going to win at home. But I think that Green Bay finds one more win, gets to 12 over 11 or 13 over 12. But they're both going to be swapping paint, rubbing is racing, as they say. Then there's a bit of a gap. I believe that next up in line will be, once again, a team on the ascent, the Bears. The Bears do have a quarterback on their rookie deal. That means they can have a good time with some of the things that they have and may want to do. Ryan Poles, when he came in, this is what he said his vision was for the team. He said, I'm going to tear it down to the studs. We're going to get rid of almost everybody over about a certain age or is making over a certain amount of money. Look at the roster when Ryan Poles came in and look at the roster now. And it was a gut rehab. He didn't slap on a coat of paint. He didn't move around. He didn't just rehab the kitchen, put in, Sub-Zero and Italian tile. No, he tore that sucker down to the foundation and rebuilt. So if it works, he's a genius. If it doesn't, he's fired. But the good news is that the Bears are now, to quote my great-grandmother, they're squatting to rise. I think this is a team that's right around 500, maybe a game on each side of it, but I'm going to guess maybe a game under 500. My guess would be about 8 and 9. But they're on the upswing. Okay, now, I'm not saying anything that I think hasn't probably already been said, though I must admit I didn't catch anything but the last few seconds. The Vikings are a couple of years away from being a year away. But if they got the pick right with J.J. McCarthy, shout out to LaGrange, Illinois' own J.J. McCarthy. Not long ago, I was at work, not far away from where he goes to school, and we went to school and saw all the signs. Good luck, J.J. But he's young. He's very young. He's very talented. He's very young. He's young even in terms of the amount of college ball he played, right? So he's a relatively young player, both in terms of obviously age, but also even football experience. So it's going to take a little while for him to mature, but the components are there. Shout out to my friend Giroux, who coached against him. My friend is a linebackers coach at school in Bolingbrook. Got a chance to see J.J. McCarthy up close from the sidelines, thanks to my friend who coaches for that other team. And yes, he's got the goods. Once again, raw, but the talent is there. To me, the Vikings will go as far as, the most talented all-around wide receiver in football they have in Justin Jefferson, and a probably improved defense. We'll see. Anything can happen. That team, despite having a defensive-minded head coach, at one point had just lost its way defensively. So even if they're slightly better, they might pick up. My prediction, right at this moment, would be about 6-11. I think that's about a 6-11 team for the Vikings. You said jumping over to the South. South is next?
Yeah,
Right.
We're doing the NFC North and South. So
Yep. Okay, so the South is a little less segmented. I think they're a little close. Everyone's a little closer together, to my mind, on the South side. Last year's surprise team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, will be less of a surprise, but I don't think they're going anyplace. I don't think they're going to fall apart or fade away. I think they may win a game, maybe even two less, but they're going to still hang around. The Panthers can't be that bad again, right? Right?
Wrong.
While I think the Panthers are still going to bring up the rear, I think the accordion is going to come a little closer together, right? Instead of being all the way out here, I think are they still picking in the top 7 or 8? Sure. But could they get to 5 or 6 wins? It could happen. I could see 5-12, maybe even 6-11. 7-10 isn't out of the question altogether. Let's see. Other teams, well, it's hard to pick a class, like a cream. Like none of the teams just jump out and slap me in the face, right? And say, oh, wow, this team's going to be amazing, right? There's nobody just jumps out at me and says, yeah, we're here, we're there. I think the Falcons will be better. I think that the Arthur Smith era revealed some things about that team, right? I remember thinking to myself as I watched the Falcons, I said, Arthur Smith is either like the ultimate troll master, right? It's like, give me all the talent at all these positions and watch me decide to build my attack around, like an undersized tight end, right? Not even the tight end you think it's going to be. Like it was fascinating to watch what he was doing. It was almost like the whole iocane poison thing from I can't possibly use Bijan Robinson. You see that coming. I can't use Kyle Pitts. I mean, I'm going to use Kyle Pitts, so I can't use Kyle Pitts. So it was fascinating watching him game plan. Desmond Ridder, unfortunately, got treated super weirdly. Also, I still think he has a chance to be something, but he was in such a bizarre situation. And then Heineke, and then it was as if you said, I'm going to give you a bunch of really interesting players at different positions, and I want you to use them in such a way that no one understands what you're doing. And he said, all right, bet. And so that's what we got from Arthur Smith last year. It was just so weird. But I can't believe they'll be that bad again this year. I think they're going to be, once again, fighting for 500. I could see them on either side of it. I could see them being a game above or a game below. But I think they'll be, to me, the most improved team. Let's see. Now that leaves me with trying to figure out a winner, right? I have to pick a winner.
Oh, you got to talk about who that saved.
Okay, I will. So here's what I will say about the Saints. We all saw the Saints kick the can down the road, and people said, oh, the cap is a myth. The cap is a myth. No, the cap is a mister. And that mister beat the living daylights out of the Saints. They finally had to, they couldn't dine and dash. They finally had to pay the bill, and it hurt. They ended up having to basically blow the team up and rebuild. And people will point fingers at lots of places. Dennis Allen deserves some of that blame. Mickey Loomis, frankly, deserves some of that blame. Kai Harley, the magician, the capologist, as they sometimes call it, who is, I think, a future NFL GM himself someday. But he was the guy that managed to keep that, that 3-card Monty game or juggling act going for so long. But finally, it all came down. And Michael Thomas is now sort of like where Keenan Allen is in his career. Not what he used to be, but he can still do some things. Their running attack fell completely apart. And they still have Kamara, and I don't think he's beaten up exactly. I just think I'll be honest, he seemed disinterested to me last year at times. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was super into it and doesn't know how to show. But I saw some guys put forth some efforts that didn't look like they were giving every last ounce exactly.
Derek Carr.
Well, I mean, Derek Carr was playing with, once again, he's had the worst luck with defenses. I think the best defense Derek Carr's ever played with his entire NFL career was a number 17 ranked defense. I think that was the best. He's played with some of the, once again, a quote-unquote defensive-minded head coach. Well, what's that worth? They put forth a terrible defensive effort. Their running attack fell apart. Carr did what he could, but we just said Mike Thomas isn't Mike Thomas, or wasn't Mike Thomas anymore. Their tight end position was Juwan Johnson, Troutman, and it was like a law firm, Troutman, Johnson, and what's his name? So Rashid Shaheed had a couple of games, but like they didn't have any consistent, you have to double team this guy. Who's the guy you have to double team? Nobody, right? There was nobody you had to double team. So there were no easy throws at all. When your running attack is bupkis and there's no one who demands a double team, where are the easy throws? There are none. So while he may not be the world's greatest quarterback, you could have given Tom Brady in his prime that team and he would have struggled. That was not a good offense and a terrible defense. So where the win's going to come from? If you can't run the ball, no one in the passing attack scares anybody. Your offensive line is bad. I mean, you can put the blame lots of places, but I would put it mostly on the people that put together the game plans and put together the team. Last but not least, the Saints also, I think, will be maybe a game or two behind below 500. I might be giving it back to Tampa Bay by default, right? Hold on. Interesting. The Falcons, to me, it comes down to Falcons and Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is still the most complete team in the division, but the Falcons are the most interesting team in the division in terms of potential for growth. We could see Kyle Pitts go from this square peg being shoved relentlessly into a round hole to being a literal all-pro. He's got the potential to be a first-team all-pro type player. He could be potentially the best tight end in the NFL if used correctly. Say it with me, everybody. If used correctly. Now, that is the big question. Can this finally happen? But that's how I see that division playing out.
All right. So we're getting down to the tail end of the show. I want to let the early people go first. So, Steve, once again, congrats on the little lady.
Congrats.
Congratulations on girl dadding. I highly recommend it.
Yes. So we know you got some bottles ready and stuff like that. So tell them where they can find your work.
I am Steve Rogers, exclusively with teammbsmedia.com. You can find all my work there. Mostly I'm covering Minnesota sports. I am branching into a little bit of entertainment coverage, done some hip hop articles, working on some TV show articles currently to come here sooner than later. Have some time from work as I will be at home with child here. So thank you to my job. Shout out to them for their maternity leave. And it's going to free me up to put more time into Team MBS.
Wonderful. Well, we appreciate you taking the time away from the wife and the little lady. You go take care of them. We will see you around the corner soon.
And Steve, shout out strategically for making sure you had your child right as football season begins. Brilliant.
Yes. Christy,
Yes.
you've been hanging with us since the beginning, and I know you got the little one running around the back. So tell them where they can find your work.
You guys can follow me on Instagram Twitter and TikTok at I am Christy Love. I just posted 2 videos. Well, we just posted 2 videos of a little bit of a deep dive on Chicago Bears quarterbacks, wide receivers, and then the running back should be uploaded tomorrow morning. So make sure you guys follow me, follow Team NBS everywhere, and yeah, that's it.
Christy, you guys are going to lose Khalil Herbert, aren't you?
You know what? It's looking like it. He wasn't really producing like he should, in my opinion. And Roshan has been shining playing behind Khalil last year. Now we got Swift. He more than likely will be running back number 3 if we don't cut him. And
Okay, well, you just get Khalil Herbert cut so the Dallas Cowboys can have.
You want him? Yes,
yeah, I want a running back. I don't need Dowdle and all these clowns that they still have currently. I need a running back.
See,
Okay,
Christy,
Zeke. Good luck with that.
See, Christy, feel free anytime Greg starts shilling for the Cowboys to pull a Mike Ditka and go, next question.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though Ditka set the tight end record for what team did he play for when he did that? Oh yeah, it was the Dallas Cowboys. That's okay.
Yeah.
Our single post is the next game and not any other game. It's just the next game. We're not looking ahead.
Lord knows.
Well, unfortunately, we're in the business of looking ahead right now. So
Yeah.
we're going to look ahead a lot.
We ain't got a choice.
All right. So thank y'all for hanging out with us. You
No
know,
problem.
I'm going to let Bill hang around a little longer since he had an engagement. He's all dressed up. I got to give him a few more minutes of FaceTime. But y'all enjoy your night. Greg, you get to hang around for 2 minutes with me to harass Bill a little. So, yeah. So,
Good night, guys.
all right.
Start warming up for he's gone.
So we got basically you covered everything we need to cover. We got your division picks. You're on some of the other preview shows, correct?
Me?
Yes, you, sir.
I had better. Luckily, there's only one. I hope National Night Out, so I shouldn't be dragged out. Say on a Tuesday night of all nights, late at night. But very quickly, lost my friend Larry Nance recently. But my love to Rashawn, Mignon, and all who knew and loved my friend Larry, who was just one of the most amazing people. He could do a little bit of anything better than most people could do most things, and he was just made of love, consideration, and beauty and compassion, and I will miss him the rest of my days. Now, to talk ball, I too will have some videos dropping tonight. I will do a little bit of a dive on what I call, hey, would you like to buy a bridge made of fool's gold? People love to fall in love during training camp. Think about some of the training camp Hall of Famers that you've run across in your days, Jeff. And every team has one or two.
Oh, yeah. Everybody has a junior glimpse.
Yes, right. Correct.
The current guy that everybody is high on in Dallas is Cropper at wide receiver. Everybody is talking about how good he is and everything else. And it's just like, okay, yeah, there's been no pads. You know, there's no hitting, but hey, he's a superstar. Okay.
Oh, Jalen Cropper Moreno has been one of my guys. For those who follow Bill Carroll on Twitter, if you might remember, he was one of the starters on my All Underappreciated team a couple of years ago. I'm a huge fan of his. Huge fan of his. I've been bothering anyone who would listen to me about him, and you guys are now set in the slot for a while. I won't go as far to say Victor Cruz exactly, but he's Cruz light. And he's stronger, and he plays a little bigger, a little strong. Because you look at him, you think, oh, you know, what year in high school are you, young man? But the good news is he knows how to overcome those things. He's not like he just woke up that size. He's just like, you know, as when they ask those questions of Russ Wilson, it's like, well, yeah, I figured out how to play around this. I know what I'm doing. He's very high football IQ.
Yes, he is.
He can also help you in the return game if you decide to let him do it. terrific hands, what I call quiet hands.
Very quiet.
And while he's not a freak athlete, if you take the wrong angle, he will go on you. He will. You don't take the right angle, he'll go for you. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I am a little sad that he's playing for you guys, but yes, I'm a big fan.
All right, so guys, over under on the length of time Dave Canales is coach of the Panthers. We've seen the lack of patience that David Tepper has. They don't seem to be set up for immediate success. Is he going to be patient to let this go 3 years? Is this going to be a year and a half or a half season like Frank Reich?
I think that Mr. Morgan had some conversations with Tepper, and I think Canales is there for 3 years minimum.
Yeah. Well, two things. One is I think the team will improve enough that patience will begin to go up. Dave Canales is one of the brightest young offensive minds in the league. That offense is going to look. No offense to Frank Reich. I'm a huge fan of Frank Reich. I would love to have him be the offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh. Love that. But
who do you have? Oh yeah, you got Arthur Smith.
Well, the only good news is that Jalen Warren is going to go nuts in fantasy. I'm laughing to keep from crying. But the fact is that Dave Canales is going to help everyone. That offense is going to look so much better. The running game is going to be better. The short passing game. No offense to everyone who was there before. If there was ever a team that should have been built for the quick game, it should have been them, right? Why weren't they just gashing people with the quick game and saying, hey, you're going to catch this ball 3 yards down the field, make someone miss and make something happen? The ball should have been coming out like this. It's Bryce Young's strength. I mean, what was the whole scouting report you kept hearing on him? Point guard. Who are the big comparisons? Drew Brees, right? Why wouldn't you build an offense that plays to his strengths? I mean, once again, I'm a big Frank Reich fan, but if there was a guy to take all your 5 and 7 strap, if there's ever time to shelve all that stuff, that was the time to do it. You have a small, young quarterback behind a bad offensive line and no real deep threat. If there was ever a time to say, okay, we'll put the 5-7 step stuff later. We'll do that next year, or maybe the year after. Dave Canales is going to say, what does this kid do well? He's going to build everything around what Bryce does well. What routes do my receivers win on? That's what we're going to do. It sounds simple when you put it that way. Hey, what are you guys good at? Oh, let's do that. But it sounds crazy, but not everybody does that, right? Not everybody says, what do my guys do well?
And this is a big problem in all of football. I mean, come on. We know that offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators get something in their brains, and that's what they love to do, and their players have to adjust to them. Well, guess what? It doesn't always happen, and it doesn't work.
Right, especially with younger players. Players, so Dave Canales, they're good for 2 or 3 more wins this year. I feel very confident about that, and that should buy Dave Canales time anyway. And then the next year, if they improve like that again, you might be time to talk extension. So I think Dave Canales is going to be just fine.
Yeah, you touched on the main issue most offensive coordinators that fail have. They put too much weight on scheme and not on what they have. And unfortunately,
killing more.
That's usually what gets you fired. So I mean, Arthur Smith found that out the hard way. His scheme is scheme, but you have so many wild cards around you, you don't have to play it straight. And it was like watching him call an offense last year was like watching a blackjack game where he kept playing the aces of 1. It was, and that's what it was like.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not there anymore. He's your now problem in Pittsburgh, Bill. But the good thing is your coach is fine with it playing it straight. So he might be just fine, and he might be the new Ron Earhart in Pittsburgh. You never know.
He could turn things around.
He is a better fit for what we do than what they should have been doing. Like, it was whatever.
Well, listen, Bill.
There'll always some days when I'm sure I'll be slamming my head against something, but the good news
You won't be
is that-
wishing for you still won't be wishing for Matt Canada to return.
no,
right?
not Matt Kennedy. No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
You can at least say at least we didn't get Adam Gase, right? So
That's right.
Thank you for bright-siding this moment for me. Yes, at least it's not
Yes.
Adam Gase.
yes.
One last thing I'll say on the future of that franchise and their very bright, very young head coach. If they draft well that's the other big thing, right? If they draft well going forward. Now, obviously, they gave up a lot to get Bryce Young, and now they're paying the piper, right? They've got another little while before they fully recover from all they gave up. But there's a big old but. You mentioned a very important name, Dan Morgan. If you buy into Dan Morgan the way I buy into Dan Morgan, I believe he wants them to be solidified around a way of playing football, right?
Yeah.
Not every team even seemingly has that, right? What is our way? The Patriots had a Patriot way. The Steelers have a Steeler way. Whether it drives me crazy or sometimes not, there is a Steeler way. Obviously, Dallas has a Dallas way. There are some teams the 49ers, right? They look at the way their teams have been built forever, right? And they seem to look at, okay, we want versatile, smart players. We want athletic offensive lines. We want receivers that are great at run after catch. Like, you could look back 3 or 4 different administrations of the 49ers, even with different schemes, but they still like the same types of players.
Yeah.
Right? Our quarterback has to be able to move at least a little bit. Certain things that you can always count on with certain teams. And some teams, the Panthers didn't have a way. They didn't have
They had a way. They had Cam Newton. That was the way.
That was their way, right? Okay, good point. That was their way for a long time. They had Luke Kuechly on one side, Cam Newton on the other. But right, good point. But I mean, they lost their way. But now they're finding it again. Dan Morgan is going to give them a way to be a team. Here's what we do. Here's why we do it. Here's the Panther way. That's about to develop. The Packers have a Packer way. It's like, it was Ron Wolf for a long time, and then they kind of sort of said, well, I think they would go into the room and say, well, Ron's not here, but what would Ron do? Right? So even when Ron Wolf wasn't there, he was still kind of there. But yeah, that's what I think is about to happen.
Ted Thompson was a good disciple. Yeah,
very much.
Ted Thompson was a good Ron Wolf disciple. Yeah.
Very much so. Right. And now, where's Elliott Wolf now? I know his son.
New England. New England.
Of course. Right. New England. Yeah.
Yep. So it's time to say goodnight, fellas. Greg, before we do, of course, tell them where they can find our new NFL draft analyst work.
Well, it's Greg Cowboys on Twitter, and that's where you find me. And I'm going to be doing a whole lot of draft analysis.
Yes.
And Bill and I will be doing shows together about this stuff, and Brock, and we'll be busy.
We will be busy. Booking some guests for us as we speak. Shout out to Jeffrey Fan, who's my big ACC guy. Albie, at Twitter he's Albie, sure. But I'm looking for you for Big 12, some other Big 12 people. I'm working on guests now. It's almost that time. I'm getting ready to start doing some stretches so I don't pull something. But yes, I am working on putting together my top 200 and then adding to it until we get to a top 300, 350, maybe 400. I'm also dropping some videos tonight about, once again, as I said, training camp Hall of Fame candidates. And I'll do some analysis on what things I think will change and what things will stay the same on offense and defense for the Chiefs. And then the same thing for the Colts. What things I think will stay roughly the same. Obviously, the biggest difference for them is that they'll have a different starting quarterback, which they're hoping this season. But things that I think might be tweaked schematically this year for both those teams, and also things that might be slightly different in terms of their actual personnel. Obviously, teams, losing game players each offseason.
Well, if you see me and Bill work, it looks like the odd couple, right? He's Felix Unger, well-dressed, and here I am, Jack Klugman, with the sweatshirt on, right? So, I'm just that. When you see me on the road, if you ever see me at a college game, I'm never the scout that's in a tie. I'm in the same athletic gear you see now.
There you go.
I'm still very much in the sideline attire. So I wear my dry fits.
You know where we have to go this season, though?
Where's that?
Florida International University. Because it's going to be called Pitbull Stadium. He bought it for $1.5 million for five straight years. It's Pitbull Stadium at Florida International.
Yes. Well, I can officially call that my school now.
You can.
So,
officially
yes, you
call it
can.
your school now.
And that's why I also mentioned it, since you're also going to be a student there.
We will have to come down and all visit. We will have to do that.
Indeed. Well, with that being said, folks, we have more shows coming your way Thursday night. Yep. Terrific Tom will be in this seat. All right, hosting the NFC East and NFC West. I don't have the list of the guests in front of me, but I know I'm one of them. There you go. Greg, I see you, Greg. All right. So we're on there together.
And the boss is actually going to be there because Brian cannot appear. So
there you go.
Joe Cardozo will be here on
all right.
Thursday night.
So
I will be watching.
They're bringing out the big gun, and I know you're going to be on one of the AFC shows, Bill, or both.
Yep, at least one. Okay. And I'll be warmed up in the bullpen in case I'm needed for something else.
There you go. So Thursday night, 8:30, same bat time, same bat channel. You will find some more NFC action coming your way. Bucks Weekly coming your way this week as well. As soon as we have that all recorded, edited, and coming your way down the pipe. So make sure you tune in for that. For the amazing Bill Carroll, our new senior NFL draft analyst. For our new NFL draft analyst, Greg. Woo! And myself, Jeff Barnes, the humble Jeff Barnes. I will see you next time I get a chance to see you. Yes. All right. Well, that being said, it's not on the show, so I can't say the show name, but I will say the next time I see you. But thanks for watching this NFC North and South preview. More coming your way here on Team MBS Media. Make sure you keep it locked here. Once again, you can follow the big guys, but keep us little guys going. Make sure you stay tuned. Thanks, everybody, for watching.